Time for some suggestions, comments from the public. Start with Joan.
On what?
While you're here.
Wow, like the rest of them are.
Meaning,
On your meeting last Monday.
yeah. Any changes?
No, but not that I know of.
Well, they're being attended.
I got a question on that. Can I speak? We got ordinances. Why are we going through them all? Why don't you just enforce the ordinances we got?
Exactly.
Exactly.
That's what we tried to say last week.
We've had them for years. We've never endorsed them.
Correct.
My
So
husband
they-
talked about some of these year
Yeah.
and a half ago, well, it isn't an
Yeah, so
ordinance.
why not do it? Or throw them out?
That's what we were trying
I
to
said that for years, but it never
No,
gets done.
no.
That's exactly what we are doing.
We're in the process of that.
Since
I
when?
think
We
there
heard that
was,
2 years ago.
You
I
know,
don't think there was a comment made at the last meeting that we weren't enforcing the existing ordinances.
yes, there was. Because I brought up about mowing the grass in the streets, which you've been guilty of, Scott. I don't know if you've been fined or whatever. We brought up about your building, Ray, and you lost your excuse book. That's been up for over 10 years. You know, that you got a warning about, that's,
10 years ago,
well, okay, say 5, I don't know.
It was
there has been
It was
some
10.
improvements up there.
And
I don't understand where, but when they told you were supposed to rip it down and it hasn't been down, and then you single out one house in town, I know, but like I said, how come you haven't been
It's because
fined?
I'm lazy.
But how come you haven't been fined? That's what I'm wondering. How come the council, or how come the city hasn't fined you?
Well, I find myself the other day, I made a contribution to the swimming.
I don't think a contribution, a tax write-off is not an excuse, a payment of a fine. I'm sorry, that's a tax write-off. Good God.
That is being addressed. We've had several.
We've had some complaints about city property since that meeting.
Always an excuse.
The reason I'm here is I just wanted to come again to show that I think some of us are very serious about this town, that we take pride in our town, and we would like to see the council see that some of us are very concerned about the appearance of the town. And I came tonight because I wanted you to see that it does mean something to me, and I would like to know, because last week I felt like we just kind of went around in a circle. Yeah, we're doing ordinances, we're looking at them again, but we didn't get a concrete answer as to what are you going to do now? While you're doing this ordinances, the codification or whatever you called it, what will you do now for us to make us feel like you're listening to what we're saying? That's what I'm here for.
Well, I do want you to know that your list, or everybody's list that was turned in tonight was turned over to the cop. He has inspected, the first day he was Saturday, I think, after the meeting, I believe, yeah. He inspected 16 of the 55 properties. And according to our ordinances before, they had no violations. He had it right here.
It's pretty pathetic.
And
Because there are no
It's
there
not-
are no
it's-
ordinances for volunteer trees, weeds, firewood, and painting currently in the, into ordinances. So that's one reason why you want those updated, so that things like that can be included if that's what people, you know, how people feel.
Well, I'm only trying to protect our property from these rotten trees falling on our buildings. Rotten buildings with animals crawling in and out that you're scared to death to go outside. I just feel like I'm being bombarded.
And I think there should be weed sprayed and stuff for creeping jennies, dandelions,
Canadian thistle,
yes, everything.
dandelion.
And the trees, but I just come out and went up by the street and I got hit from the branches coming over on my side and my head got all wet. They're that far down
On what street?
on First Street, a vacant lot on the side of it.
I think there is an ordinance in the town that says that they have to be so high.
15 foot or
So that, there's an ordinance there for
Yeah, there
that.
is an ordinance for
I
that.
think there's also an ordinance for, everybody's supposed to keep the sidewalks up,
And
grass
scoop.
mowed.
Scoop.
But it's pretty hard to enforce an ordinance on sidewalks, I would think, in this city if half the town doesn't have them. And I feel that, you know, that is a big issue here. You know, you've got half the town with no sidewalks, and the older part of town has them, and the only ones that are,
But it says existing sidewalks.
I understand that, but why should
That's
Why
just the way
should
it is.
residents get fined when other ones aren't expected to put them?
Then why do
in?
we have ordinances then?
I agree, but, I mean, you're gonna get that from people because, you know, why doesn't Southwind Drive have, I'm just using that as an example, sidewalks, you know? Why were they allowed to build without sidewalks?
I don't think there's anything about fines for sidewalks in here. That I see.
I don't know if they're fine.
Yeah.
There's an ordinance to
Yeah.
have kept
Right,
up
right.
and kept them scooped.
Right, there's fines.
Well,
The
that's why I suggested I make up that questionnaire, which Marcia's got a copy of, and as far as I'm concerned, the council should see it probably before it's passed out, really, but there are things that I think were brought up in the meeting that current code doesn't address. I mean,
You're gonna change some of these, though. Right.
well, yeah,
Okay.
they'd be subject to change by the council, but like you mentioned, the current code says you gotta maintain an existing sidewalk. It does not say one has to be built everywhere. And it's questionable whether you want one everywhere. I mean,
I think.
I can see areas like the park or along the baseball field or different areas where you might not want a sidewalk there.
Yeah, but for the safety for the children, there should
Along
be
the,
one.
yeah.
Even
Anywhere
up by
that
their place, there
children
should be one all
on
along there
roads.
for the kids.
Well, yeah, okay, 100 people might have 100 opinions, and maybe not. Maybe everybody would agree there should be one everywhere. I don't know, but the issue is, under current code, there isn't a requirement to have one. There is a requirement to maintain one. It has historically not been enforced, and so we have to make a decision about enforcing the current code and or changing the current code to say there should be one everywhere. The current code does address dilapidated buildings that have animal activity. We address that under the nuisance code. The current code does say grass has to be a certain height, which therefore limits the height of weeds as well, and also indicates you shouldn't mow it into the street. But it doesn't address weeds specifically, it doesn't address volunteers, trees specifically, it doesn't address paint specifically. And one of the things I asked is, let's have the feedback, because do you want those things addressed or do you not? I mean, and how far do you want to carry it, and how do you want to define a house that isn't painted properly, that kind of thing, because you can set very, very strict limits.
Oh, yeah, I just was wondering, have you investigated what other smaller towns do? I mean, as far as their ordinances?
We have
I mean,
on
because
and off
you've got some
forever, yeah.
really nice looking smaller towns.
Yeah,
What
I
their
know
ordinances
that
are.
Ida Grove, I looked into some of theirs. They have a 12-inch, and they also have $100 fines for homeowners and $75 for renters. That's on a rented property. Otherwise, it's $100 to the homeowner per violation after. And then I've looked at, well, I don't know for sure, Galva, I was told they have a $250 fine.
But what are their ordinances? I mean, what is the fine for? Are they fining for sidewalks? Are they fining for paint? Are they fining for having wood stacked in your
That I'd
backyard?
have to go more.
That's what we need
I
to
was
know.
more interested at this time, the last month, in the mowing in the weeds and et cetera, so that's what I was looking
Do
at.
we have an ordinance to say that, we had the ordinance, grass can only be so high, and if they don't mow it, do they get a fine? Just like your building, supposed to be down 10 years ago, nothing was done. Is there a
Where's
fine
the
that says
fine?
that building should have been down? Did you get a ticket then?
Well, I don't know that it's been 10 years.
It's been
but to
10
my
years
knowledge-
when I was on it, because I took my hog house down the same time, and you sat there and said yours would be down the same time.
Yeah.
They've been gone 10 years.
In order,
Those years go by fast,
And
right?
it's still standing there. and no fine or nothing.
Well, some of it's gone.
You should have got a fine for every day you were delinquent.
In order to find someone, they have to violate a code.
He violated.
They are.
But-
Scott
There is a
violated it, not
violation.
mowing grass down there
Speaking
that
of-
long,
yeah.
but nothing's
Because
done.
he's the
As
mayor.
far as the grass right now, Mike's Lawn Service treats my lawn.
We're not talking about that.
The grass is not supposed to be cut shorter than 3 inches this time of the year.
Well, that's fine, as long as it's cut and it looks nice.
Not supposed to be scalped.